The rain lashed the windows of Trattoria Bella Napoli like it was trying to break in. Inside, the air was thick with garlic, rosemary, aged wine, and the low murmur of money-changing hands without anyone ever saying the word. Candlelight danced across white tablecloths and faces that never worried about tomorrow. At the best table, permanently reserved, always center stage, sat Matteo Romano. 39 years old. Dark hair swept back just enough to look effortless. Charcoal suit tailored so perfectly it seemed to mock gravity. Founder and majority owner of Romano Ventures, a name that appeared in Forbes lists and whispered in boardrooms from Milan to Manhattan. Tonight he was toasting the $1.2 billion purchase of a faltering tech startup that would soon wear his brand like a crown. His 3 associates laughed too loudly at every line he delivered, the way people do when the bill is never theirs to pay. The waitress moved through the room like smoke. Present enough to serve, absent enough to disappear. Name tag, Sophia. Black curls escaping a loose knot at the base of her neck. Hazel eyes that held stories no one ever asked to hear. She approached their table with a fresh carafe of water and the second bottle of Barolo they'd already ordered. Matteo looked up, half smiling, the smile he used when he wanted to charm without committing. "You're new here, aren't you?" he asked, though he knew she wasn't. He'd seen her before. Briefly, peripherally, but never really looked. "No, signore," she answered in crisp English. "I've been here 3 years." 3 years? He leaned back, amused. "And I never noticed? That's a crime." One of the associates chuckled. Another raised his glass in mock salute. Matteo's gaze lingered. "Sophia. Italian name? Sicilian, maybe?" He tilted his head. "Speak Italian for us. Come on, Bella. Give us the real music." The table laughed again, easy, entitled laughter. Sophia set the carafe down slowly. She straightened. When her eyes met Matteo's this time, there was no deference in them, only something ancient and unyielding. In perfect, melodic Sicilian-inflected Italian she said, "Matteo, la tua risata è la stessa di quando avevi 17 anni. Ma I tuoi occhi non brillano più come allora. Peccato. Hai lasciato che il mondo ti spegnis." The table went deathly quiet. Matteo's hand froze mid-air, wine glass suspended. Color drained from his face in stages, first the cheeks, then the lips, then the knuckles gripping the stem so hard the crystal sang a faint, high note. Those were not random words. They were his words. 21 years earlier, under a gnarled lemon tree on the edge of a sun-bleached hill in a forgotten corner of Sicily, a 17-year-old boy with nothing but dreams and calloused hands had whispered exactly that sentence to a girl whose laughter sounded like wind chimes. He had said it while braiding a wildflower crown into her hair, promising her the moon if she'd wait for him to go make something of himself in the north. She had kissed him instead of answering, tasting of salt and citrus and first love. Sophia turned on her heel and walked toward the kitchen, tray balanced perfectly, spine straight. Behind her, Matteo Romano, the man who negotiated billion-dollar deals without blinking, felt the room spin. He didn't finish his wine. He barely spoke again that night. When the bill came, he signed it blindly and left a tip that could have paid her rent for half a year. Then he waited outside under the awning while the rain turned the street into black mirrors. One by one the staff left. Sophia was last. She stepped out, pulled the hood of her old wool coat over her head, and started walking. "Sophia!" he called. She didn't stop. "Sophia Vitali." That made her pause. Slowly she turned. Rain slid down her cheeks like tears she refused to shed. "So you do remember my last name?" "How could I forget?" His voice cracked on the last word. He took 2 steps closer, then stopped when she stiffened. You said my own words back to me." "How?" "Because I never forgot them," she answered quietly. "Because I carried them like stones in my pockets for years. Because every time I heard someone laugh the way you used to laugh, I looked up hoping it was you. And it never was." Matteo felt the words hit like punches he couldn't block. I wrote letters. For 2 years. Then life. Life. She echoed, the word bitter. Life happened to me too, Matteo. I waited in that village until the lemon tree died. I waited until my mother got sick and there was no money for medicine. I waited until I realized waiting was just another way of dying slowly. Then I sold everything we had, bought a one-way ticket to New York, and started over. Alone. He swallowed hard. I looked for you when I could finally come back. You were gone. You looked when it was safe, she corrected. When you were already somebody. When it wouldn't cost you anything to find out I'd moved on. Silence stretched between them, filled only by the drumming rain. I never stopped loving you, he said, so low she almost missed it. Sophia gave a small, broken laugh. Love doesn't disappear for 20 years and then show up in a $3,000 suit expecting forgiveness. She turned and walked into the dark. Matteo stood there until the cold soaked through his coat and into his bones. The next night he came back. Alone. Sat at the same table. Ordered nothing but espresso after espresso until she had to serve him. She did it without a word, eyes on the saucer, never meeting his. He tried again the night after. And the night after that. For 17 nights he came. Sometimes he brought nothing. Sometimes he left small offerings on the table after she walked away. A worn copy of Pavi's poems, a tiny vial of bergamot oil from the coast near their village, a postcard of the very lemon grove where they'd said goodbye. She never acknowledged them. But she never threw them away either. On the 18th night the restaurant closed early for a private event. Sophia stayed to clean. Matteo waited until the last server left, then slipped inside through the side door the staff used. She was wiping down the bar when she saw him. You can't keep doing this, she said. I don't know how to stop. She set the rag down. Then tell me why. The real why. Not the polished version you give boardrooms. He moved closer, stopped when she tensed. Because every deal I closed felt empty. Every penthouse view felt like a lie. Every woman I dated smiled the way they thought a billionaire's girlfriend should smile, and none of them ever looked at me the way you did, like I was enough just breathing. I built an empire so I could come back and give you the world. But when I finally had it, I realized the world I wanted was the one where you were still waiting under that tree. Sophia's eyes shimmered. I'm not that girl anymore. I know. You're better. Stronger. You built your own life without me. And that makes me love you more, and hate myself more. She looked away, blinking rapidly. You're engaged, Matteo. Victoria Langford. 6-carat diamond. June wedding in the Hamptons. I read about it. His jaw tightened. It's not what you think. It's exactly what I think. You found someone who fits the life you chose. Someone who doesn't remind you of what you left behind. Victoria is safe. She understands contracts, not promises made under lemon trees. But she isn't you. She never will be. Sophia crossed her arms like armor. I won't be your midlife crisis, Matteo. I won't be the secret you visit when the boardroom gets too quiet. You wouldn't be secret. You'd be everything. She shook her head. Words are cheap. You taught me that. The next morning an unmarked envelope slid under her apartment door in Queens. Inside, a cashier's check for $450,000. A single line in his handwriting. For your art. For your freedom. No strings. I swear on the tree. She stared at it until the numbers blurred. Then she walked to the kitchen sink and tore it into confetti, letting the pieces fall like snow. That evening she waited for him at the restaurant after closing. The dining room was dark except for one pendant light above their old table. She held up the torn fragments. I don't want your money. I know. Then why? Because I owe you 20 years of mornings you should have woken up without fear. You owe me nothing, she said. You owe yourself honesty. You left because you were scared you'd never be enough. You're still scared. He looked down at his hands. Hands that signed deals worth empires, hands that once held hers like she was the only fragile thing in the world. You're right. I am. Silence. Then, softly, I broke it off with Victoria yesterday. Told her the truth. She threw the ring at me. Said I was pathetic. Sophia's breath caught. I'm selling 30% of my stake, he continued, stepping back from daily operations. I don't want the empire anymore. I want time. I want mornings. I want us. If there's still an us to want. Tears slipped down her face. You think it's that easy? You think you can erase 2 decades with a grand gesture? No, he whispered. I think I can spend the rest of my life earning back every day I stole from you. If you'll let me try. She studied him, really studied the lines around his eyes, the tremor in his fingers, the way he looked at her like she still held the sun in her hands. I don't trust you yet, she said finally. I know. But I never stopped loving you either. He exhaled like a man surfacing after years underwater. She stepped closer. Not touching. Not yet. If we do this, it's slow. It's honest. No more disappearing. Never again. 2 weeks later, the society pages exploded. Matteo Romano ends engagement to Victoria Langford. Sources say he's reconnecting with his past. Sophia saw the headline while wiping down tables. Her stomach dropped. She pictured the headlines turning cruel, the speculation, the way his world would punish him for choosing her over them. That night she didn't go home after her shift. She packed a small bag, left a note for her roommate, and took a bus to a small town upstate where no one knew her name. She needed space. She needed to breathe. She needed to know if the ache in her chest was love or habit. Matteo arrived at the restaurant the next evening and found her gone. Again. This time the manager could only shrug. She said she needed time? Didn't leave a number. He searched for 4 days, called every contact he still had in the art world, drove to every gallery that had ever shown her work, sat outside her apartment until the doorman threatened to call the police. On the 5th day he found a listing, a solo exhibition opening in a tiny Hudson Valley gallery. Title of the centerpiece: 21 Years Under the Same Tree. He drove through the night to get there. The gallery was crowded with locals and weekenders from the city. Sophia stood near the back wall in a simple black dress, hair loose, arms folded like she was protecting herself from the room. The painting was enormous. A lemon tree heavy with fruit dominated the canvas. Beneath it, 2 versions of the same boy, one at 17, reaching upward with hope in his eyes, one at 39, kneeling, hands open in apology. The girl stood between them, half turned away, half reaching back. Sunlight fractured through the leaves in golden shards. The colors ached. She saw him enter. Her breath hitched. He crossed the room slowly, ignoring the murmurs that followed. When he reached her, he didn't speak at first. He just looked at the painting like it was a mirror. I sold another 20%, he said quietly. I'm moving out of the penthouse next month. Found a place up here. Small. With a garden. Thought maybe you'd like to paint there someday. Sophia's throat worked. You're really doing it. I already did. She looked at the painting again. I painted that the week after I left the city. I was angry. Hurt. But mostly, I was tired of pretending I didn't still see you everywhere. He reached out, slowly, brushing a tear from her cheek with his thumb. I'm here now. Not the boy. Not the billionaire. Just me. The man who loves you more than he knows how to say. She closed her eyes. I'm scared. So am I. She opened them again. Then be scared with me. He nodded. She stepped into his arms. He held her like she might vanish if he breathed too hard. Around them the gallery noise faded until it was just the 2 of them, standing under a painted lemon tree that had waited 21 years to bloom again. A year later they married quietly in the village where they'd first met. No society photographers. No headlines. just old friends, her mother's sister who still lived in the same stone house, and a priest who remembered them as teenagers sneaking kisses behind the church. They bought the house next to the lemon grove. Sophia's studio overlooked the hill. Matteo learned, slowly, how to plant, how to prune, how to sit in silence without needing to fill it with plans. Some nights they sat under that same tree, now older and wider, and said nothing at all. Other nights she painted him while he read aloud from books they'd both loved as kids. And every morning, no matter the weather, he kissed her awake and whispered the same promise he'd broken once and would never break again. Forever starts today. Destiny hadn't abandoned them. It had simply given them time to grow strong enough to hold it. Like the video and subscribe to the channel for more emotional love stories.